Hello, thank you for joining me today. Could you please tell us your name?
My name is Vineet Kaul.
Thank you for offering to share your story with me. During this interview, if you wish to take a break or stop anytime, please let me know. If you do not wish to answer a question or talk about a certain topic, please let me know. I am honored to record your story and appreciate your participation in this project.
Sure.
Could you please tell me how old you are right now?
Well, I'm 48 biologically, but maybe 25, 26.
Which place were you born in Kashmir?
I was born in Srinagar.
What was your family's occupation or main source of livelihood when you lived in Kashmir?
My dad worked with the Ministry of Tourism, Government of India. So primarily in Kashmir, it was his salary that kind of put food on the table.
And what was your family like? Did you have a big family? Was it small? Did you live with relatives? How was the community like in Kashmir?
We kind of lived in a larger family. It certainly wasn't a nuclear family per se, but whatever I remember our life in Jawaharnagar, and I was very very young. I mean, I was like I barely remember Jawaharnagar, but that was like a joint family, and then we moved for 6-8 months to Natipura on rent, and from there we moved to Bemina. That transition was basically our houses were getting made in Bemina. Bemina was like 5 kilometers from Lalchok, but it was basically countryside. Almost three sides were open fields, and you could see Padgam Budur, and then on the other side you could see the Upperward mountains of Gulmarg. And but we had 3 houses there. So the first house was my elder uncle's, the second house my second uncle, and the third one was my dad and my mom's house. So 3 families kind of lived in 3 different houses, but kind of it was like a joint family in that sense. Yeah.
Can you describe the community in a neighborhood you lived in Kashmir? I know you mentioned you lived in 3 places, but one was when you were really young, one was on rent for a few months, and one was in Bemina. So could you describe maybe how the community was and how the neighbors were in Nattipura and Bemina?
Uh, it's a slightly tough question to answer because different people will have different perspectives on this. But I kind of give a slightly meta outlook of your question. Uh, Kashmir was a little bit, not little bit, actually Kashmir was significantly different to what you see or what I have seen in other parts of India or the world. I mean, I've had the fortune of traveling to a fair bit of places. The community in Kashmir was it was significantly kind of well knit. Yes, there were boundaries in terms of religion, etc., etc. But the larger sense or larger purpose was that of having like a slightly well knit community, and for example. Your neighbors would know you, you would know your neighbors. Of course, depending on where you live. For example, in Jawaharnagar, everybody knew us, or we pretty much would have known everybody. In Bemina, it was slightly different because it was a countryside. There was, you couldn't see another house for probably miles together. But generally, there was a sense of community in Kashmir, and a sense of purpose in those communities as well. At least, back in the 80s. After that, obviously, hell broke loose.
So, what was your daily life like in Kashmir as a child? Could you describe like a regular day in your life?
Uh, I think once we moved to Bemina, and those are the memories that I have much more than Jawaharnagar. I barely remember anything in Jawaharnagar except that we had this big house, and we had a significant amount of land around the house. When I say significant, I would say like 3-4 canals of land. There were these apple trees, There was this. Uh, there was this another fruit tree. There was a well there, uh, but that's about it. And I don't, obviously I was too young. I was like, I mean, that's where I was born, so I don't remember much about that. But Bemina was a very different animal altogether, because Bemina was countryside, and life was tough at best. It was great because I would do anything today to be able to live in a place like Bemina of 1982, 83, 84 types. Uh, my school, I used to go to Burnhall, the best school in Kashmir. People say Besco is the best school, but it's not. It was Burnhall. So I had to walk. I mean, at least like 2-3 kilometers every day. Me and my brother, my first cousin, my uncle, middle uncle's son. We used to walk from Bemina uh, to almost Batmalu, and from there, the school bus would pick us up and take us to school, or we would go in um, horse carriage, a horse carriage that used to carry grass, sacks of potato, onion, that kind of horse carriage. Not the ones that you see in fancy movies. There was no sitting. It used to be called a reda. Reda was basically it was like a goods carrier. We did that for I don't know, 3-4 years, till public transport started to ply on that road. It was called a matador. It would seat around 30 people, much smaller than a bus. And then we used to go in that matador to Lal Chowk, and from Lal Chowk to school, and same procedure to come back. Uh, but life was good. I mean, in hindsight, also, life was good. It was tough, but it was definitely good.
So, your school life seems very fun. So, in your breaks, did you visit any places other than Srinagar? Like, did you have any school camps, or like during the winter and summer breaks, did you have a place that you would live in temporarily except for Srinagar?
Uh, Schooling in Kashmir was significantly different to, say, schooling in other parts of India. In Kashmir, we had a very short summer break. I would say, I think it was like 2 weeks at best. But then we had a very long winter break for about 3 months, around mid of December till about mid of March. Sometimes it would get extended because it would snow or the cold was unbearable, etc., etc. And yes, we did go to camps. If my memory serves me right, I at least did 3 camps: Pahalgam, Yusmarg, and I think Sonmarg as well. Uh, and in winters, I would be in Gulmarg for 3 months.
Could you tell us a little bit more about your winter break and what you used to do in Gulmarg?
I think the best part of being in Kashmir, apart from other great things, was the fact that I had the opportunity to go to Gulmarg every winter, because my father was as I said, with Ministry of Tourism, Government of India. He was running. He started his career, I think, in about 72 or something like that. And at one point in time, there is significant amount of work that his office and he himself put in, making Gulmarg what you see today. Right from having the chairlift, it's decommissioned now, so we have a gondola now, and we have a chairlift, right up from Kangdori, to snow clearance, to setting up the ski shop, which was the ski shop in Gulmarg for the longest time, and the most amazing part was that I used to get to ski for 3 months straight every year, and not a lot of people get to do that. And fun fact, I started skiing when I was just 3 years old.
So, Gulmarg is very different from like a city, for example, like Srinagar, it's lesser people, it's more of like a valley than like a city or a town. So, do you have any interesting stories or memories related to Gulmarg other than skiing?
Yeah, I mean, Gulmarg is like a bowl, and it's not a place that is kind of habitated the way, as you rightly pointed out, the way cities or villages and towns are. Nobody stays in Gulmarg for the night. For example, Gulmarg doesn't have like a population of its own. So it's like a destination, literally. Like there is nobody who can say कि मैं गुलमर्ग से हूँ. Baba Rishi is the closest, followed by Tangmarg, and there are a lot of there are a lot of stories I can narrate with respect to Gulmarg. A few of them are first-hand information. I've seen it personally, even though I was very very young, and a few are from what my mother, my father basically kind of shared with me. So if you want, I can probably go out them one by one.
Yeah, sure, you can share them.
Okay, so Gulmarg has snow leopards. I mean, that entire area has snow leopards. It's become less and less now, but I think a few years back, some tourists actually encountered one while skiing down, and they took a video, etc. And it was all over the internet. But here's a fun fact. Back in the day, this is 1970s and probably some part of 1980s as well. There's a temple in Gulmarg, Shiv temple. It's called Rani Mandir. Unfortunately, got burned just a few months back. I'm sure they're reconstructing it. And then there is a shrine in Baba Rishi. Baba Rishi is kind of midway between Gulmarg and Tangmarg, but it's not like exactly the midpoint. You kind of go to a different, slightly different. You need to take a detour to go to Baba Rishi, and there is a shrine in Baba Rishi, like Baba Rishi's shrine. That also got gutted, at the peak of terrorism, and then got rebuilt. Fun fact: there's a snow leopard that used to go down from the mountains. It would go to this Rani temple, and from there it would go down to Baba Rishi, and there was a person in Baba Rishi who would basically serve rice and whatever vegetable, rice, etc., to this snow leopard. The snow leopard would eat that and then make its way back to, obviously nobody knows to where. But this was like a ritual that the snow leopard kind of followed. So that's like one fun fact to get you started. Then Kashmir has had a lot of mystics. We would call them Moit. Moit is basically a madman, but it's not used in the same context as the English translation of it. So there were a lot of mystics in Kashmir. It's obviously now become very I'm not really sure if people still have the fortune of coming across some of these people, but my family has had a few such interactions. There was one person called Amlal in Gulmarg. He lived in Baba Rishi, and he used to frequently come to Gulmarg, and we've had like a few things that have happened which I have seen myself. So this is like first hand. I remember somewhere around mid 80s. I don't know exactly which year, 85, 86 or 84. My mom, she developed this rash, all over her face. First on her lips. It's called, in Kashmiri we call it zal. Zal is basically like, you develop this rash typically, when you get a cold or something.
Like cold sores.
Yeah, cold sores. And she got it like all over her like face, mouth, and she could barely it kind of reached a stage where she could barely open her mouth. And doctors came, saw, gave her medicine. We have army doctors there. We have a high altitude warfare school there, HOS. Army doctors came, gave medicines, anti-allergics, blah blah blah. Nothing worked. And then one day Amlal goes to dad's office, the ski shop, and he would invariably tell him to call my mom, Mr. Babi Sidkatkari. I want to speak to your wife. And he just told dad, to dial the hut number. Our phone number was 88. Gulmarg had just 100 phones, and ours was 88. Dad's was 89 in the office. And then when more phone lines started, then ours became 288, and his office was 289. And then obviously he had 3-4 more phone numbers in different offices like chairlift, ski shop, blah blah blah. And dad told him she can't speak because she has this problem, and you didn't do anything to help her, etc. And he told dad, ask her to make rice and spicy sabzi for him. And dad was like, she's unwell, and why is he asking, to make this? So he insisted. Dad called my mom. I mean, she could obviously hear. She said, Amlal wants to come and have rice, and he's asked you to make ganduchod. It's like tomato, onion, but he's asked you to put a lot of mirchi in that. And mom said, what do you mean lot of mirchi? He said, just put a lot of mirchi, make it like 5x, 10x spicy, I don't know. And then Amlal goes with dad to the hut. Mom has obviously made food, and he sees her and basically asks her for the food. He eats the food, obviously it's extremely spicy, and he starts to sweat like crazy, like, absolute crazy. And mom obviously offered him water, etc. He didn't, and he finished all his this thing. And okay, sorry. Before that, he took out this. He used to have this kind of a clay in his pocket, and there are more incidents about this clay, unscientific of course, but it is what it is. And he just broke that clay in her hand and told her, you just put it there. And my mom and dad are like, my mom was extremely religious, but at the end of the day she was a graduate, she was a science student, so she said, I'm not going to put clay on my open sores, bacteria, and everything's going to kind of blow up. She obviously didn't do it. And then he asked her, okay, give me the food that I wanted you to make for me. And then he was having all that food, and he was sweating like absolute crazy. And he had food and he left. And my mom was like, okay, I mean, whatever. 2 days, there's not a spot on her face. Just 2 days. And we don't know what happened. And I mean, we can obviously justify that, oh, she had been taking medicine, blah blah blah, but the medicines had gone into her system for like more than week, 10 days, and there was not even a shred of anything getting fixed, etc. And yeah, that was, we couldn't explain it. We still can't explain it. I'm sure there is some explanation to it, but I'm just telling you, how it is. Similarly, on one of these trips, dad used to come to Gulmarg either in a taxi. So so taxis used to fly from Srinagar to Gulmarg. They would go through Batmalu, and typically they would either have tourists, then obviously they would pick you up. Otherwise, if they were going empty to Gulmarg and they had to get somebody down, so nobody was in the taxi. So the taxi guy would take like $10 from him and drop him to Gulmarg, and which was a good deal, $10 in 1980, 82, 85, whatever. And sometimes dad used to go on a scooter. So he had this Vijay Super scooter. It wasn't actually him, it was his friends. Joginder Pal Singh, Anand, uncle, auntie, they both, passed away. And one day dad is going on the scooter, and the scooter stops somewhere in, I think Kunzar or somewhere, and it's not starting. He did everything, and he was obviously going up to Gulmarg, so he was on an incline upwards. So he just turned the scooter, ran with it, put it in gear. So that was another way to start the scooter or a bike. He did all of that, nothing happened, like nothing. And now he's just kind of stranded there. And lo and behold, Amlal is, just loitering around. And he asks dad, what the hell are you doing here? Dad asks him, Amlal, what are you doing here? And dad then tells him that my scooter is not started, and it's not working, I don't know what to do. Amlal tells him, again he takes out this mitti and tells him to open the petrol tank, and tells him you put it in the petrol tank. And my dad, obviously, as I said, they were they were like scientifically sound. I was like, if I put this in the petrol tank, it's going to choke the bloody carburetor and finish. The damn thing will never start. And obviously, dad refused. He said, what are you saying? How can I put this in the petrol? How can you put mitti in the petrol? It doesn't make any sense. And then Vijay Super used to have like a dicky below the seat, like the driver's seat. So Amlan tells him, okay, open the dicky, put it in the dicky. So dad took that mitti ka chota sa tugda and he puts it in the dicky, closes the dicky, and then Amlan tells him, kick maro. So dad gives half a kick, the damn thing just starts. And obviously, you can give any scientific reason for it, but I'm just kind of telling you for what it is. There is one more incident. There are actually two more incidents. I know I'm taking a lot of time, but
okay.
these are like incidents that
very interesting.
Yeah, remember. My mom got me I'll tell you the shorter one first and then the longer one. My mom purchased a firan for me from there was this government shop, handloom shop. I don't remember, NTPC or something like that. No, not NTPC. I don't know, whatever it was. She purchased this light grey colored firan for me, and Amlal, typically he used to come to the hut. He comes and he asks mom for that firan, and mom tells him that I'll get you a better one. And she genuinely told her, I'll get you a better one, and this might be short for you, because I was a small kid at that time. Even for me it was a little bit longer, but for Amlal it would have definitely been a shorter one. And she tells me, I'll get you a better one. This may not fit you. And he says, no, I don't want it. Forget it. He was like a, जैसे बोलते हैं ना, he was a moth. So he basically changed the topic and he didn't take it. This was, I think, 87, 88 or something like that. And when mom finally, whatever was the occasion, mom told me to wear that. I've never been able to wear that firan. It was like it was, I don't know what was the material. It was like, it started like itching me in the neck. I was like, ये मुझे चुभ रहा है, and I didn't wear that firan. Obviously, my dad, it wouldn't fit my dad. He did try. He didn't wear that firan. Then migration happened. The damn firan obviously was worn by nobody. Again, it's a very small thing, but you just get the drift of it. Then there's one or two more large things that happened, and this is what this one is what dad has told me. I don't know directly about it. I believe one of the Shankaracharyas had come to Kashmir, and they were on their way to Gulmarg. It was like a very large cavalcade of vehicles, some 30-40 odd vehicles. And typically when you come from Srinagar to Gulmarg, Tangmarg is like a midpoint of sorts, and after that, the climb to Gulmarg basically starts. Up to Tangmarg, it's like a steady kind of an incline, straight road, etc. Amlal, in Tangmarg, there's this road. He used to have this stick in his hand. He just goes and kind of puts like a lakir on that road from one end to the other end of the road. And the Shankaracharya, I don't know exactly whether it was a Shankaracharya or there was some saint who was coming. His cavalcade reaches Tangmarg, and he asks the cars to stop all of a sudden. And the people and obviously the people who were sitting with the Shankaracharya in that car, they were like baffled as to why did he stop the car. And obviously there were like 20, 30, I don't know, God knows how many cars. Everybody stopped and everybody's, what the hell is happening? And this saintly person is telling his people in the car, यहाँ से आगे जाने का permission नहीं है. And those guys are like, what? Who the hell is going to give you permission? You were supposed to be like at the topmost, place in the hierarchy. Again, quote unquote unscientific. But he said, नहीं, यहाँ से आगे का permission नहीं है, गाड़ी वापस मोड़ो, and we need to go back. And I the best of my knowledge, I don't think they went to Gulmarg, just because Amlal had kind of put that lucky, and then apparently Amlal went and ऐसे करके he just kind of removed that. And the last incident that I know of Amlal is this is winter of 88 or 89, I think 89. We had a JKLF warning letter pasted on our hut in Gulmarg, and we had another warning letter from terrorists pasted on my dad's office. And prior to the dad or us seeing those letters, one night earlier, we had my dad's office had a lot of daily wagers. Daily wagers is it's like temporary staff, so as to say. And one of the persons, and a few of them were very very close to my dad, mom, and me. I mean, and one of them is Akram, and he's still alive. May God keep him well and his family as well. He's I've grown up with him in Gulmarg for years together. So Amlal and Akram meets Amlal in in Baba Rishi, and Amlal asks Akram, "Telcha kolso bachao." Akram is baffled. Okay, so the Hindi translation, the English translation is, "Do I have to save Mr. Kaul?" Akram is like baffled, and his kind of reaction to is, "Ad kya karak?" Matlab, what else will you do? And Akram doesn't know anything. Like, he's like perplexed. Why the hell did he ask me? But terrorism had kind of started, by that time already. Akram is now perturbed. What the hell was this? And that was the only interaction that happened. Like brief, 30-second, 50-second, whatever. Next day, Akram comes to Gulmarg, and we notice this letter on the on our home, and then there was this letter on our office as well. And so that's stuff in Gulmarg. And there were more mistakes in Gulmarg, by the way. Not only them. Highland Park Hotel, there was one moth who was very very favorable to Benji uncle, and Highland basically peaked out under the kind of blessings of that moth. I don't remember his name. Then there was another saint, moth, whatever you want to call, who again knew my mom and dad. And as I said, my dad used to run the ski shop and chairlift and other things in Gulmarg. Chairlift is next to gondola. If you go to Gulmarg today, so you have this gondola now, but maybe like 50 meters on the right side of that, there used to be a chairlift. It is decommissioned now, and but chairlift, the way you see the crowd at gondola today, that's the crowd that used to be there on the chairlift. So it was an extremely busy place, and next to the chairlift there was a cafeteria, because these tourists would come and then kind of have tea, coffee, lunch, etc. there. And the road to this chairlift, the last 10-20 meters were, if it used to rain, it was like practically impossible to go to chairlift. People would be falling all over the place. There was this much thick mud. It was bad. I mean, to be honest, I always used to hate going to chairlift, in summer, especially when it had rained. One day, this moth, I think his name was Nundaresh. I hope I'm getting it right, the name part. He tells dad, let's go and meet Babi, like my mom. And Nundaresh is wearing the bathroom slippers, like we used to call it nylon chapping in Kashmiri. My dad is wearing like a mountaineering shoe, which has got this thick, sole with like significant amount of traction. Dad tells him, "तो पे क्यों prone, like आप आगे चलिए." And he basically tells dad, "ना, चिपक prone, मतलब तुम आगे चलो." And dad was like scared shit, because he thought, what if he falls and something bad then is bound to happen, etc. But Nundrish, he insisted, you go ahead. Dad is like, as I said, he was wearing his like mountain shoes, and Dad's shoes are like, his sole obviously is in the mud, even the leather part is now covered in mud, and Dad is scared that this person is in his bathroom like in the bathroom slippers that we have, nylon chapping, and Dad just sneaks you're just walking straight and you are like this, and Dad looks at him, he's like freaking stunned because the guy is like walking on air. There's no mud on his slippers, like nothing. And Dad's like obviously shocked, not in disbelief, because those things have been seen by some people, or many such small number of people in Kashmir, not in Gulmarg. And Dad just keeps his bloody head down, and they walk to the hut. The hut was around like 50 to 100 odd meters from the chairlift, and Dad goes in. His shoes are like in mud, and the other guy's shoes are like chappal is like squeaky clean, nothing. And they go in, and Dad calls this cafeteria. So I know some helper is at home, and he asks. Mom obviously tells Dad there is nothing, like, could you get something to eat, for him, like roti, etc., etc. She'll make tea. And Dad probably, Dad calls somebody in chairlift, tells him to go to the cafeteria and get, some bagir khani, etc., etc. from the cafeteria. This person now goes to the cafeteria and tells him to pack like bagir khani, biscuit, or whatever ABCD. And this cafeteria owner tells like his staff there about Nundrish, about this mood. You should kafir government. ये काफिर बन गया है, ये कश्मीरी पंडित के घर जाके आप रोटी या चाय पिएगा. And this helper, this office person from Dad, he obviously hears this, doesn't say anything to them, just gets this bread, this bagir khani, etc., puff bagir khani, etc., and gives it to Mom. Doesn't tell them anything either, and goes back to chairlift. Mom makes tea, and obviously gets this out in a plate, puts the sheet नीचे. कश्मीर में सारे लोग नीचे बैठते थे. बुखारी वखारा सब on है, even though it was summer, but when it rains, Gulmarg becomes a little bit cold. And this mystic, he just has tea. He doesn't have any of this stuff that is got from this cafeteria. Dad tells him कि आपको भूख लगी थी, आपने बोला था मैं चाय पीऊँगा वो भाभी के पास जाके, तो आप क्यों नहीं खा रहे हो? He said नहीं, मुझे I don't want it, मुझे भूख नहीं है, ये खत्म होगा. And तब हो गया, like he leaves, and Dad goes back to chairlift, and Dad casually talks to his colleagues there and says कि yeah, had to pet the chai. He didn't eat anything. Dad and Mom were feeling bad कि अब something wrong might happen because he didn't eat food in our place. They were like, thinking it from their point of view. And Dad was obviously worried now. He just mentioned it to a few of his staff there. And this person who had got this bagir khani puff, etc., he said Kashmiri mein to this cafeteria owner, he said emispeit rat emonitpoit. Emispeit rat matlab he cursed this cafeteria owner and said कि उसने ऐसे से बोला नुंदरिश के बारे में कि ये काफिर हो गया है, कश्मीरी पंडित के घर पे जाके आप चाय और रोटी खाएगा. Next week, lightning strikes that cafeteria, and sorry, that's not what happened first. Next week, chairlift develops a major fault, and Dad has to stop the chairlift. There's like a major issue with the wire. They found some strands of wire had cut, which is like, from a safety perspective, it's like stop. Dad stops, The chairlift was constructed by Das Hitachi guys. He stops the chairlift. Obviously, traffic stops to chairlift. The cafeteria is basically now without tourists. Couple of weeks from that, lightning strikes the cafeteria and the damn place is gutted to ground. To ground. उसका ना प्लिंथ खाली बचा हुआ था, नीचे जो पत्थरों का जो बनाते हैं ना बेस, वो खाली बचा था. So आप इसको कोई भी मतलब you can give it whatever bloody twist we want to give it from a scientific perspective, but these are some of the realities of Kashmir. और ऐसे कश्मीर में बहुत सारे मिस्टेक्स रहे हैं at some point in time.
Wow, so your memories of Kashmir are certainly very exciting. Could you describe what you miss the most about Kashmir?
There's no straight way to actually answer this. I think it's like a curse, to be honest. You know, I'll just give you an analogy. Actually, forget that. I think at least, you know, people who've lived in Kashmir till about 1989-90, culturally they were a misfit for at least for other parts of India. And I'm not saying that other states, cities, towns, villages in India are bad and Kashmir is something special, etc., etc. That's not what I mean. What I mean to say is that there was a way of life in Kashmir, and Kashmiri Pandits had a way of life of their own. Good, bad, I mean, we can debate many things, but it was a way of life. And then materialistically as well, the place was like, it had 4 seasons, has 4 seasons, had for us. The temperature was like 25, 26, 30 degrees was hahakar, oh, mar gaye. And culturally also, it was very different. The moment you crossed Banihal Tunnel, it was a very different world. So I think the incompatibility of oneself with the rest of the country, I think that I think I miss that the most. I mean, we've been living in Delhi. We live with the grace of God now. In the last few years, we live in one of the best colonies in Delhi, you know, if I can say. I mean, we still on a bloody rented accommodation. हमारा अपना घर अभी भी नहीं है. But I think I miss the good parts of the culture the most. There was always significant bad that used to happen with Kashmiri Pandits in Kashmir for decades, and if you kind of go into the history of it, it's not been a great thing for Kashmiri Pandits, but that's probably for another day.
Yeah, I completely understand what you're saying, and even though there were obviously religious differences between Kashmiri Muslims and Kashmiri Pandits, the cultural aspects were similar, and the community was similar in a lot of ways, as opposed to looking at communities in mainland India. So when you had to leave Kashmir, obviously the transition and a new lifestyle had to be adopted. So what were some of the challenges you and your family faced, especially you, because you were how old were you when you had to leave?
I think I was 14.
Okay, so especially for you as a school going child.
I remember, you know, the last couple of weeks before we left Srinagar, we were in, so that the winter of 1990, we were in Gulmarg. The valley was burning, by the way. We were kind of isolated to some extent, or a great extent, because you didn't have phones, technology, internet. social media at that time. We were in Gulmarg. Like every winter, I skied my heart out in the winter of 1990. Uh, uh, I skied that year. I skied with few special friends apart from my regular friends. Sarah, Hena, Omar, Dr. Saab's daughters. Um, we had French fries. Kehwa, played Russian rummy in Highland Park in the cards room. Uh, but the reality was so much starkly different that it's not funny. We went to Srinagar, I think somewhere around mid of March, like every year, and it was a very different world. Uh, I remember. Uh, I remember, the quote unquote war cries over the loudspeaker of mosques. We had a mosque very near to our house in Bemina. Uh, I remember, we had our immediate neighbors were a Sardar family, and then there were these three houses of ours. Things had come to such a pass that I'm just 14 years old, but I distinctly remember that we were thinking कि हमारे को छत पे petrol bombs बना के रखने चाहिए. Like we should, what if somebody comes, attacks, we can at least throw these at them and try and run away. Our land with these houses was wire fenced because गाय भैंस गाय वगैरह आ जाती, भैंस तो नहीं होती थी उधर, गाय वगैरह आ जाती थी अंदर, तो हमने वायर वो कर रखी थी. बट फिर हमारा घर तीसरा था इन लाइन, एंड दी वायर and there was a empty piece of plot next to it which was also ours, and the wire at the corner at the end was basically वो कट गया था और उसके हमने वो टिन का एक strip उधर लगा रखा था. I distinctly remember that I don't know who, my dad or my uncle or somebody told me, my brother, my cousins, my sister that if we get attacked, you go from that hole and just run. Don't look back. No matter what happens to us, just run. It gives me goosebumps even now. And then one fine day, my uncle, my middle uncle, he sees my dad's name on a hit list at a butcher's shop. At a like a butcher's shop. Can you believe it? And then on the mosque. And he comes home and says कि Bilu nav cho hit list us khudma. Like my dad was called Bilu at home, and that night we decided it's not possible for us to now stay. We had we used to get milk from the village, and I don't know who went to the village to tell those people who knew us कि हमारे को we need a matador at 5 a.m. in the morning, and at 4:35 a matador comes, and we leave with whatever we are wearing, and I'm not joking. There was like I think a handbag each. That's it, and we go to Lal Chowk. We board a normal dilapidated KMD bus and head to Jammu. Sorry, I forgot. What was the question that you asked?
I'd also asked about how your education was, and like how your how your life changed, how your friendships changed, what happened to the friendships that you had, what happened in Jammu.
So fun fact is, in Kashmir, I only had Muslim friends. Beat that for a change. I don't remember having like a Kashmiri Pandit friend, as stupid and funny as it sounds. Those friendships got buried with whatever we had in Kashmir. Uh, we moved to Jammu, and uh, I think the first month or so was like, the first few years were horrendous. The first month more so because आपको कहीं जाने की जगह नहीं थी. We were at my elder uncle's relatives for some time, but it was pretty clear that it wasn't like possible to be there. I mean, so my dad and mom were desperately looking for a place, and we didn't have money, we didn't have clothes to wear, we jack shit nothing, like literally nothing, and they were like going from home to home trying to figure out a room, something where we could go. Finally they landed up at one of our relatives' place in Talabdillo, Amas, and we got a room there. They had this massively large house, I think 3 stories or something like that, and then they had this driveway, and at the end of the driveway they had like an outhouse. It was not an outhouse, it was like one room, maybe 8 by 10ish. It had a bathroom where only one person could stand, and it had a kitchen where, if you turn you would probably hit the wall. But we got that place, and it was me, my mom, my dad, and my middle uncle, his wife, and his son. So we were 6 people in that small room. There was no cooler, there was no air conditioner, there was no fridge. It was 45, 46 degrees temperature because we shifted in April, and all of a sudden May, June, July, or it's hell breaks loose. We were used to like minus 10, 15, 20 of Gulmarg or 20 degree plus of Srinagar, and now you're in 45 degrees. Coming to your specific question on the school, obviously, there's this fair bunch of people who come from Kashmir, and how do you kind of get into a school, because schools typically are, at their capacity. There was this school in Jewel Chowk called St. Peter's, and the principal there, Father Dominic, was the principal in Burnhall. It's like the last, of his postings, and he basically allowed Burnhall students, and of course other students as well, to study at St. Peter's. But as luck would have it, we had to go to school in the afternoon. At 1:32, the normal kids would go back to their home, to the shelter of their homes. We had to go out in that sweltering heat to attend school. I wouldn't want to live that life again. Did I make friends in Jammu? I did make a few friends. They were Kashmiri Pandits, obviously. But those friendships weren't lasting friendships, to be honest. I mean, they're still friends. Obviously, I have a very close friend, Deepak Karehalu. They're like absolute family friends, like a brother to me. But that's about it. I mean, to be honest, I can't really say similar about any other friend. Of course, I have other friends also, but it was like a dramatically different thing. I don't think a lot of communities will, in today's world, if a similar thing happens to some other community, and the grace and diligence with which Kashmiri Pandit parents conducted themselves, grandparents, parents conducted themselves, and made sure that their children get educated. I can bet my life, if something like that happens today, there will be very, very few people who can do that. I can have like a PhD level debate on it.
So, even though, like, So you had to leave Kashmir, obviously, but even like after you came to Jammu, you still faced a lot of trouble and a lot of discrimination. So, like, what were your feelings regarding that? Like, having to forcefully leave your home and then expecting some sort of acceptance by coming to Jammu or Delhi? Like, how did you deal with that when it wasn't really granted?
See, there are two ways to reply to this question. One is being diplomatic and kind of just scratching the surface. The other is, threadbare, telling you, what exactly happened. So, what do you want to listen to?
The second one.
I think people in Jammu sucked, at least at that point in time. There's no better way to say this. Um, they didn't live up to the challenge that was, thrown at them. I'll first kind of cut some slack for them. They obviously had, rush of people to Jammu, which was obviously unexpected. But either they didn't know how to deal with it, or they were just plain not good at that point in time. A lot of Kashmiri Pandits may not agree with me today because a lot of them live in Jammu and they might not want to ruffle feathers, etc., etc. But I don't think history should be brushed under the carpet. I have seen with my own eyes, my own relatives literally having to beg for a room, and then if somebody would come, a guest would come for a night, the landlords would vilify them कि तुमने पानी ज़्यादा use कर लिया, you can't have a guest, you can't do this, you can't do that, निकल जाओ, this, that. The worst form, like absolutely worst form. I don't usually speak ill of people, but if I had to speak, I would really kind of speak bad about, kind of बोलते हैं ना उसको बद्दुआ देना. मैं मतलब genuinely दिल से बद्दुआ देना चाहता हूँ, but I have never done it. I haven't even done it to Kashmiri Muslims. Forget doing it to people in Jammu. They weren't good. I mean, at that, and quote unquote, I'm again saying at that point in time because that is when it really mattered. Jammu got transformed, whether Jammu people agree with it or not, they got transformed because of Kashmiri Pandits. Valley's loss fundamentally was Jammu's gain in that sense, in that transition. So, I don't have, any good memory of Jammu. I don't have. I mean, I'm sure, over the last couple of decades, Jammu has kind of absorbed Kashmiri Pandits. I think we should be thankful for that. I mean, not that it really matters because कोई ज़मीन कोई एरिया किसी की जागीर नहीं होती है. I mean, if you look at it from that perspective, but one should be gracious enough. Like, I've been in Delhi for like more than 20 years, I guess. Almost 20 years or 20 years plus. I wouldn't typically say bad about Delhi. I think Delhi's been gracious enough to kind of give me, my family, some people I know, a place to settle down, live. I'm thankful for that. I'm sure a lot of Kashmiri Pandits are thankful to Jammu and its people as well. But those initial, years were bad.
So I know on like Twitter and Instagram and on social media you keep on mentioning like going back to Kashmir. So do you actually mean it? Like, do you feel a sense of longing to return to Kashmir, or is it like do you think it's not possible now?
Yeah, I mean, I think I typically, end up saying that when we celebrate like a Shivratri or a Pan or Navre, some of these festivals, and I typically add this line one day in Srinagar, and some of the friends that I made in Delhi, over Twitter. They keep on they're happy to read that, and they keep on telling me this. And I'll tell you, how this is. When you go to school, when the school is over, you want to come back home, right? It's like natural. When you go on a vacation, at some point in time, then you want to come back home. I know, I mean, sometimes you don't want to come back home because you want a longer vacation, but you understand what I. If you go to a hospital, you're unwell, and now you're like well, you want to come back home. You go to a movie, you want to come back home. You you go out to do anything, you want to come back home. It kind of completes that cycle. Whatever cycle you start, it kind of completes that cycle. हमारी बदकिस्मती ये है कि 1990 में हमारा वो साइकिल स्टार्ट हो गया, लेकिन वो ख़त्म नहीं हुआ. I think that's a lot of us probably want that cycle to complete. My grandparents died, my mom died, but that cycle didn't complete. I think it's that cycle that one wants to complete. I don't know, if we can go back. We do go back for vacations, etc. But that doesn't complete the cycle. Yeah, I think that's the answer I have.
What do you hope for the future of Kashmir?
I think it's a very complicated. It's a complicated place. It's a complicated situation. I think in the last post the abrogation of the article, I think a lot of good things have happened, and I'm not saying this because BJP government ne kara and all that, or I have anything against Kashmir, but I think Kashmiri Muslims have suffered probably more in some context, and the last 10 years have at least, last 5-7 years have at least given a little bit of a breather, in the sense that there are very less number of mothers or fathers who have to kind of bury their kids. I don't think there could be a bigger win than those burials not happening. I think that ways there is significant improvement. We go to Srinagar, like Kashmir, literally every year, and if we take out Kashmiri Pandits going back out of the equation, I think there is significant improvement, and I'm very, very hopeful that at least for Kashmiri Muslims, Kashmir will definitely be much, much better than what it has been in the first 3 decades of terrorism.
That was it for my interview. Thank you so much for joining us and sharing this.
Thank you very much.